Bruce, can we turn to you for the last bit of sparkle and fire?
So I can do sparkle, I don't mind. When I looked at this list of 7 sectors that we all broke out and broke through, I noticed one, I think, very serious omission. You know, we talk about media, transportation, energy, national security. No one's talking about the individual. So I want to spend the next 5 or so minutes talking about the individual and their concerns and their problems and what we can do for them. As far as individuals are concerned, security and privacy is best defined by control of information dissemination, of information usage. You know, when there's a security breach and there's a privacy breach, it's how did they know that? Right? Why are they doing that? Where's my information going? What's it doing? So security is about control. And for the individual, for the first time in our species society, we're moving away from how we did things. We've spent millennia building ad hoc social systems, deal with privacy, with information, with how data about us moves around, how we disclose data. And with the advent of computers, and more importantly, computer socialization, right, things like Facebook and Twitter, we're moving from evolved social systems to complex socio-technical systems. And this is a big deal. Right? What we used to do naturally, you know, tell our close friends things, we now have to make explicit. For the first time in our species' existence, we need to define a privacy policy. We need to get it right. We need to go to whatever site we're on and click whatever boxes. And to change it, we have to change it manually. We have to watch it. And this is fundamentally unnatural. It's hard to do, and it's not something we do naturally. Right? At the same time, all the technological trends that are affecting us are enabling massive invasions of privacy. Right? Fundamentally, data is a byproduct of the information society. If I do it on a computer, data is produced. So a conversation on a computer produces data. Commerce on a computer produces data. Whereas, you know, giving cash to a merchant didn't, using a credit card does. Right? Even something as simple as throwing a quarter into a toll booth is now an easy pass, some kind of electronic transfer that produces data. So everything we do now produces data. Checking into this hotel, checking into the airline. Right? Data is a byproduct of our information society's socialization. So conversations I used to have with my wife on the telephone, we now have on IM. Right? Data is produced. You know, much more of our conversations are on Twitter, on Facebook, on social networking sites, on email. Right? Even cell phones produce, and this data is stored. Right? I mean, this is Moore's law. The cost of data storage drops to free. The cost of data processing drops to free. So all this stuff that used to be deleted is now saved because it has some marginal value to someone. Right? And what we are seeing is that business and government are forcibly changing social norms. Right? We see this every time Facebook changes privacy policies or Google does something, and people get used to things. Right? We are very good at adapting to normal. So what's critical here is who gets to make the rules. Right? And rules are defined by sort of, there's a sort of a tier of this, right? Technology determines what's possible. Right? Technology is a great imbalancer of norms. So new things become possible, feasible, cheap, economical, whatever. Right? Laws determine what's legal, given what's possible. Right? Businesses, corporations determine what options people have, given what's possible and legal. Right? Markets will make the most of what laws allow. And for a lot of these interactions, we are not the customers. Right? It's a myth. You know, we're not Google's customer. We kind of think we are. We're actually Google's product that they sell to their customer. So in many of these new forms of socialization, the consumer isn't the customer. The consumer is just a product. So you'll see market failures as the actual consumer makes demands and businesses satisfy them because that's what they do. Right? So, and in this tier, people have very little control over their systems. Right? These are by nature complex socio-technical systems, so control is difficult. The non-customer relationship gets in the way. There's very deliberate psychological manipulation. If you look at the way privacy settings are enabled on a lot of these sites, they're designed to make you do a bad job, because that satisfies the business's customers. Right? The thing missing in this hierarchy largely is law. Right? Law has traditionally stepped back and let the market solve these problems. I submit that we're seeing, in looking at the individual, significant market failures. And we will continue to see them as long as sort of this current way of doing things continues. So looking into the future, the one thing we know is that we don't know what the future looks like. Right? Nobody could have guessed Facebook 10 years ago. Right? 20 years ago, eBay. These things that are normal now were completely foreign 10, sometimes 20 years ago. Looking forward in the future, we're not going to know what it looks like. But we are seeing social norms increasingly set by business for a profit motive. And we are increasingly expecting the younger generation to make choices when they don't really know yet this is a problem. Right? And the generation gap's important. The internet is the greatest generation gap since rock and roll. Right? You know the line. The line is Twitter. Those who have no clue why anyone would Twitter, and those who have no clue why anyone wouldn't Twitter. Right? That's the generation gap. Right? The younger generation is very fluent about how to use the internet, but completely clueless about how it works technically. Right? Socially very savvy, technically very unsavvy. Right? Addison's talking about a secure platform. It's over. The younger generation is platform independent. There's no such thing as platform. Give me any screen, I can get my stuff. They're not going to pay for a secure platform. They're not going to pay for platforms anymore. Platforms are cheap. Platforms are free. Right? This notion of living their life in more public. Right? Anybody in high school has been dumped on the internet, which is weird to us, but normal to them. And it'll be normal in 20 years when records of that dumping are still around. Right? Information technology is embedded in the way we socialize, especially as you get to the younger generations. It's embedded in ways that are increasingly foreign to the older generation. And the way to think about this is that data is the pollution problem of the information society. And if you think about it, all processes produce it. It stays around. It has to be dealt with. And its secondary uses are what concern us. So just as sort of we collectively look back at the beginning of the previous century and sort of marvel about how the titans of industry in their rush to build the industrial age would ignore pollution, I think we here will be judged by our grandchildren and great-grandchildren by how well we dealt with data, with individuals and their relationship to their data in the information society. I think this is an enormous issue and something that this body should address.
Well, thanks, Bruce.